Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Subi Sanctuary, and today we have my 1994 WRX Type RA. And I know at first glance this car looks absolutely mint, but unfortunately that is not actually the case. So before we begin here, I'm going to show you guys what we're working with and what had happened. When I originally did this car, some of the panels got an epoxy primer and some of them got a urethane primer. The ones that got a urethane primer actually had a severe mapping reaction, which I'm not sure if I can catch on camera. But mapping, if you're not aware, you can see a little outline around there. That is mapping. So what that is the urethane primer has shrunk around the sanding scratches and left these impressions. This showed up about a month after I had painted this car. We then wet sanded and polished the whole car, and that actually did take away all this mapping, and a month later it all actually came back. So now my solution is to take it back apart, strip it down, and repaint it. This car was actually the last time we ever used urethane primer because of that issue, and thankfully we did not do the whole car in urethane primer. What we have to correct now is the roof, both of the quarter panels, and all 4 of the doors. But to do that, and the complexity of this car's paint job already, which is top to bottom, inside and out, we've got to take it all apart so that we can do it properly and make it look like it had never been repainted on top of being painted. I want it to end up just as well done as we had attempted on this first go in this second go. So first thing we're going to do is begin to take the car apart. We're going to store away all the nice pieces, and then we're going to mask off the interior and stuff like that, and the engine bay, so that we keep all the dust and whatnot out, and begin to prepare the pieces for their repaint. So at first we thought we could get away with that. However, we were severely wrong, and here we are. We have determined that the primer underneath was causing our issue, and the only way to fix that is to get rid of the primer, which has been quite the mission. So we're starting off with razor blades, and we're able to take off most of the first layer of the paint. After that, we're going to sand it. And the reason we chose to do this is because it is too much to sand in one shot. It just gums up, because this essentially was primer that didn't dry or somehow was defective. And we get the pleasure of doing it to the whole rest of the body here. So back here at the Type RA, we now have it all prepped down. The red that you're seeing is actually the original red. We never had primer in the jams. And then this is filler. This is the original red. We have it all stripped down. This was quite a massive effort. So we're gonna unmask the car now, and we're gonna go ahead and get it in the booth, remask it, and get ready for the epoxy primer over this. At the same time, we are gonna set up all the doors as well, and then we gotta sand these just one more time, and we are ready to paint, and that should conclude this nightmare. Into this little hatch here, into this little cocoon where we have preserved our interior from getting dusty. Ryan has now got the whole car all masked. This is a car where the bay and the underbody and everything is painted, so we had to do a really good job to make sure that we're not going to get any overspray under the car. We got it all masked right down to the ground. We're going to flood the top of the masking with water to give it like a suction cup effect. I find that works really well. Then we have all the rest of our doors. This is definitely a tight squeeze. Normally I wouldn't try to fit this all in, but since this is my own car, time is money. So Ryan had masked all the undersides of the doors. They were unaffected by the bad primer previously because we only used a sealer in the paint on those, ironically. Then in standard fashion, we are gonna start with the PPG CRE corrosion resistant epoxy. We're gonna start with the gray. We're gonna put the gray down first. Then we're gonna do a few layers of the black on top. So then we have the gray as a guide coat for how far we've gone. And I'd say a total of 3 layers of this should do everything we need it to do. Then we'll mix this all up. It looks pretty cool. Then this does take a little bit before it becomes uniform. Watch, all of a sudden it will just change color. It's getting there. There, we're starting to turn gray. I'm gonna take this, fill up our cup. And we're gonna go and put this on. So today I am using an Iwata W400 with a 1.4 tip. That's a really, really small tip for primer. The reason I'm using the 1.4 tip, or this gun in particular, I have a bunch of guns all for different things. This guy finds sprays really, really fine, but it is capable of spraying this thick primer. And the reason I want it to spray fine is to reduce my effort in sanding the primer flat after. So this is actually a really, really nice gun. You can paint with this, you can clear with this. However, I use this just for primer and sealer. And then I have the exact same gun as this with a 1.2 that I use exclusively for sealer. All right, what I'm gonna do now is wet the floor, and I can actually begin to prime this, and we'll cut back after that. And there we are after the first coat of the gray epoxy. I do not need to focus on the jams because we don't need filler primer in the jams. As long as we have a transition that we can get our edges tidied up with, that is all we need. Everything turned out great on this first coat. Looking at the roof here, this would be the biggest panel, and it certainly does look super straight. Again, we went over this with some really, really rough paper to cut all that other stuff off. So we do have quite a bit of scratching, but that is the purpose of the epoxy filler primer here. Now we're gonna let this quickly flash off. I made 2 cups of the black. I've already poured one into my gun, and this should cover us for another 2 more coats of the black. Let this guy dry, we can wheel him out tomorrow and get into the sanding. All right, here we are now after 2 coats of the black on top of the gray. Everything is looking awesome. I'm happy to be moving along with this. We did the spoiler, it wasn't totally affected, but you could see the 2.5 RS stickers impression still there, so I wasn't totally feeling that.
Hello?
There we go, we got these looking sleek. You know it's sleek when your primer job is better than most people's paint job.
No.
Alright, so we're gonna get this out and carry on from there. Alright, now we got the car out of the booth and we're going to get into beginning to block sand all of our primer. I'm gonna start with 240, then 400 after that. And the idea of this is to find any lows, highs. There shouldn't really be any because we already like bodyworked this car. But on the doors, which were stripped, when I had more light, I was able to see some little dents. So I'll kind of show you guys. I'm not concerned about them. I believe they will block out, but this is why I like using the black primer. This is kind of probably too big of a block for right here. But anyway, so see how it's left that little dot right there? That's gonna be a little tiny low spot, but I know I have enough material on there that I can actually sand that out. So I'm not concerned yet. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead now and have a great time sanding. There we are, all masked now. I'm about to give the car its final wipe down, wet the floor. Then I'm gonna start with some gray sealer primer before getting into the color. The grille was unaffected, however, originally the bottom rib on the grille would have actually been body colored. When I initially did this, I was just kind of lazy and did it all black, but I feel it kind of sticks out too much. So what we're gonna do is color the bottom red, and then we're gonna take the masking off and we're gonna clear the whole thing. Here we are the next morning in the booth. Everything is painted, everything is cleared. This turned out pretty good, so I'm happy in that aspect. And I'd certainly most enjoy the look of the grille with the red bar on the bottom now. And then the last mystery is, does this red match the rest of our red? We'll find out. Here we are with the car out of the booth over into our prep side here, and this is my conclusion with the color. This was just painted, the hood was not. It's not bad, but I don't think that's acceptable. So we're gonna go ahead and paint the hood, we're gonna paint the fenders, we're gonna paint everything. Here we are now with the second batch of parts for the Type RA. We're gonna go ahead and get the gray sealer on this into base, into clear. We'll cut back after that once we can start to begin to put these on the car. After a coat of sealer and now our first coat of base, I have gone through, I have de-nibbed my base coat here. Usually this first coat is the worst with respect to nibs because I've done the sealer and then the base over top. So you go, de-nibbing is you're essentially sanding anything out of the paint that would get buried in the clear coat. I do this in the first coat and the second coat. The third coat, I do not do it. Usually by then, for the most part, all the nibs are gone. The reason I don't do it in the third coat is because there's a potential that if you sand on your base coat it could possibly show up in your clear coat, and then you are set to have to redo what you just clear coated. So I'm gonna fire up, do another coat of base and another to follow, and then we can get into the clear coat. All right, and just like that, the car is now done again. What's next from here? Quick detail. I'm gonna take it to a big show this particular weekend. Hopefully we bag another trophy or two. And then what's really next from there is I'm going to sell it. So we'll pull her out, get a couple good clips all the way around it, couple good pics and stuff like that. I am really happy with how this turned out this time. I know to you guys on the internet and maybe in person, you couldn't quite see what I was seeing, but me knowing that there was some issues with the paint on the car never really let me fully appreciate or respect the car for what it was. And now that those are all fixed, we got really good quality product on here. It looks absolutely amazing. I feel like now I can sleep at night. With the main goal for doing this was to sell it. Prior to this, I did not want to sell it with those defects and having my name attached to the car. Now that I've got those all sorted out and I can stand behind the job, she is ready to go. All right, everyone, that wraps up this video here, and I am excited, anxious, nervous to see how this car does on Cars and Bids. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go ahead, drop a comment below as to what you think this is worth. I know what I put into it and the amount of time I put into it. I know I'm not getting that back, but that is not the point in selling it. The reason I'm actually selling it is I'm out of room here at my home shop to store my cars. And I've recently bought a new car that I'm essentially going to do in the same fashion to replace the Type RA. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until the next one.